It may have been a good idea 80 years ago. Frankly, it isn't today. We have to repeal the Human Rights Act of 1998, brought in by a Blair government, many of whose families seem to do rather well off the back of it. We will, for a 5-year period, disapply the 1951 Refugee Convention and any other barriers that can be used by lawyers in this country to prevent deportations, to prevent the right thing from happening. We'll create a legal duty for the Home Secretary to remove those that come illegally. And crucially, we will detain all illegal migrants who come, and we will do so immediately. The only way we will stop the boats is by detaining and deporting absolutely anyone that comes via that route. And if we do that, the boats will stop coming within days, because there will be no incentive to pay a trafficker to get into this country. If you come to the UK illegally, you will be detained and deported and never, ever allowed to stay, period. That is our big message from today, and we're the first party to put out plans that could actually make that work. We will stop the boats from coming. There'll be no more incentive to pay traffickers. Public trust will be restored, and we genuinely are the only party that can be trusted on this. I am the only party leader that has been clear and consistent on this issue over the course of the last 5 years. And I have a feeling that what we're doing today with Operation Restoring Justice is going to be very popular in the wider country indeed. Now, to go through some of the operational phases we're going to need to go through and the structures we're going to need to set up, I'm going to invite Zia Youssef onto the stage.
Thank you, Nigel, and thank you all for coming. Look, for decades now, successive Tory and Labour governments promised to get tough on illegal immigration. And yet, year after year, tens of thousands of fighting-age males, as Nigel said, have arrived on our beaches. In fact, the total number of illegal immigrants in the country now stands at least 1 million. The true number could be considerably higher than that. There's little doubt that the United Kingdom is being invaded. In fact, more people have arrived on our beaches illegally over the last 8 years than stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. And they're rewarded for this by a political class that puts them up in hotels at the British taxpayers' expense, given free meals, free healthcare, free TV licenses, and as our Doge team has revealed, even free trips to the safari park and to the cinema. Even those that commit heinous crimes are routinely defended by so-called human rights lawyers who succeed in preventing even convicted rapist illegal migrants from being deported. All thanks to a legal system that prioritises the rights of foreign citizens over our own. Well, the patience of the British people is now exhausted. We're unwilling to accept that Britain's border should be open and undefended, unwilling to accept that Britain must cede its sovereignty to foreign courts, and unwilling to accept that our own veterans who served our nation with valour and distinction be evicted from their homes to house fighting-age males from Iraq and Afghanistan who turned up on our beaches uninvited. This is a national emergency. It's a national security emergency, and it's time to put British people first. So, upon winning the next election, a reformed government will launch Operation Restoring Justice, a 5-year emergency programme to track down, detain and deport all illegal immigrants in the United Kingdom. It will also immediately stop the boats from coming by sending a very clear message that being in our country illegally now has an ironclad consequence: immediate removal. Deportation is the ultimate deterrent. Our plan combines an uncompromising legal reset with national-scale, relentless enforcement through a new UK deportation command and a powerful foreign policy campaign. As Prime Minister, Nigel Farage will direct every instrument of state to ensure illegal immigrants are detained and deported. Reform will pass the Illegal Migration Mass Deportation Act to ensure that no activist judge can stop deportations. We will leave the ECHR, but that is nowhere near enough to get this job done. We must also repeal, not disapply, but repeal the Human Rights Act and replace it with a British Bill of Rights. We'll create a legal obligation for the Home Secretary to deport everyone illegally in the country, and will disapply all international treaties that are used to keep illegal migrants in this country. And yes, that means disapplying the 1951 Refugee Convention and the UN Convention Against Torture and the Council of Europe Anti-Trafficking Convention. That is a non-exhaustive list. These treaties will otherwise be used by activist judges to frustrate deportations, even after the repeals of the human rights.
And I think successful summer for Reform UK. We didn't go to the south of France this year. We launched our 6-week crime campaign. And I was very, very pleased that we got some senior figures from the world of policing, the prison service, to come and join the party, to set up a task force so we can get legislation planned and ready in time. What was also interesting was there were many in Westminster, in politics and the media, who thought, well, crime's not really a problem because some surveys say that crime is falling. Well, that's certainly not how most people in the country feel. And certainly our advocacy of zero tolerance, particularly for areas like shoplifting, really caught the mood of the country. And plus our insistence on stop and search, which interestingly is popular across all sections of society, regardless whether you're on the left, the centre or the right of politics. Sadly, at the same time, free speech has been genuinely under attack, and I think the final implementation of what was well-intentioned legislation, frankly, is quite chilling. And that allows the public now to believe that we're living in a world of two-tier policing and sentencing. And indeed, if you just look at it, you know, if you're a childminder who says something deeply intolerant and wrong, but only once, ever, it's a long prison sentence. And even if you're a foreign national arriving at Heathrow Airport, well, if you've said something the authorities don't like, you may well be arrested by 5 armed officers. And if you don't think it's two-tier, well, have a think about this. On Friday, there were some very explicit threats posted on TikTok for me to be killed. Pretty sick in the light of what happened to Charlie Kirk, but quite explicit. Been told this morning by the Metropolitan Police that those posts don't meet the threshold for further action. So I think we are, you know, without doubt, living in a two-tier country. It is extraordinary. The rest of the summer was dominated for us by the weekly by-elections that happen every Thursday, and those that study these things will see we're winning more and more seats and doing particularly well against the Labour Party in some parts of the country where they've been strong ever since the end of the First World War. And of course, this all culminated in our conference in Birmingham 2 weeks ago, which was upbeat, optimistic, full of energy, and the party is in good shape. But I did say, there were 2 things I said in particular at the conference. The first was that I thought this government and the British economy were in far deeper trouble than most people realised, and that I did not believe the government would last a full 4 years, thinking myself that a general election by 2027 was entirely possible. It seems to me, given events of the last week, it could happen even more quickly than that, I don't know. But I also admitted that our big weakness, and the question that we struggle to answer, is how can a team of people who've never been in government think about going into government? How can a team of people who, if we get elected, on a genuinely radical agenda for change, how are we going to deal with some of the barriers that we might face? They might come from elements of the civil service. They might come from the House of Lords. They might come
from the teaching unions. How is a team of inexperienced people going to be prepared to go into government? Well, some of you may think even talking about winning the next election, about government, is pie in the sky. But frankly, having led the opinion polls for over 100...
What we're trying to build. Thank you very much indeed. Noah Hoffman from The Sun. That's a lot of questions.
Thank you. This is one to you both. Danny was political secretary to Boris Johnson, someone you, Nigel, blame for waves of mass migration. I was just wondering how you both square that circle, please.
Well, I think when the mass migration occurred, Boris was Prime Minister. Danny knows him incredibly well. But I think one of the reasons Danny is here, he's been disappointed by what's been promised at elections and not delivered. I don't hold Danny personally responsible for that mass wave of migration, and quite the opposite. Just look at his voting record.
Thank you. So I was political secretary to Boris in 2019, in those months before the 2019 election, which was when I became an MP. So I was there through the Brexit battles when we were in a minority government and had to try and get Brexit through very, very difficult circumstances. And I remain enormously proud of Boris Johnson for his achievement then. I think he was absolutely the man for the moment. And with help from Nigel and others, he won a great victory at that election, and all credit to him. I was very disappointed with what followed. Firstly, with the failure to properly grit the system of Whitehall itself, which Brexit was only a prelude to. We needed to restore the government to the people. That was what people voted for in 2019, and I think we failed to do that, particularly during COVID. And then secondly, most obviously, with the wave of immigration that the government oversaw. And while as a Conservative MP, in a sense, I bear some responsibility for that, in practice I was arguing strongly against the degree of both legal and illegal migration that the government was presiding over. And I'm on record for having opposed measures that the government was introducing, particularly around the small boats crossings. And I rebelled on the Rwanda deal because I didn't feel it extricated the British government from the snare of the human rights framework that would have prevented Rwanda from working as well as it could have done. It didn't work at all, of course, because Labour scrapped it. But so I think I was on the right side of those arguments in the last Parliament.
OK, Martin Beckford, Daily Mail.
Thank you. Good morning. Could I ask, Danny, one of the things you've been best known for over the past year is opposing the assisted suicide bill. Will your preparations for reform government include repealing that law, is law by then? And Nigel, would you support him in that? Thank you.
So my quick answer to that is we'll wait and see. The manifesto is still to be written. Zia Youssef is leading on policy development. It's a free vote in the House of Commons, questions around assisted dying. And I think that's probably the right framework for it. Nevertheless, and I defer to Nigel here, I think it is appropriate for the parties to take the way laws are framed seriously, and I have very significant concerns with the way the assisted dying law has been framed, actually with the support of the Labour government. So it might well be appropriate that the party takes a position, but the reality is our MPs are split on this question like the country is. So I don't think that it's likely that we're going to be imposing a position on principle on assisted dying on our colleagues.
Not unless it's become legislation and we can see it's going horrendously wrong. But you know, we haven't even got through the House of Lords stage with this yet, and there are many who support the principle who now have grave reservations. Unlikely to be a major party political issue, I would have thought, at the next general election, but an issue of conscience, certainly. Jonathan Walker, Daily Express.
Hello. Danny, what sort of problems do you expect Reform to face if they do form a government? Do you think the civil service are ready for a Reform government? Will they work with Nigel and his team? And Nigel, can I just ask you, these TikTok messages, are they just an annoyance or are they a genuine concern to you?
So on the civil service, thank you. I think we're going to encounter serious opposition. And part of the purpose of today and the work that we're going to be doing quite publicly in the months and years to come is to be signalling very clearly to the system what is coming. And we want to do that in a civil, constructive way. We don't want to pick fights where we don't need to, but it is essential that the Whitehall machine understands that if we win, there will be change. And what that will look like, we'll be talking about more in the period ahead. But I think there will be opposition, but I am determined that we do this in a way that is constructive. And there will be many civil servants who will actually, I hope, I'm confident, and my experience of the civil service is this. There are many people, often quite quiet people, often not at the very most senior ranks, who recognise how broken the system is and who will want to help us. So I think it's very, very important that we signal to those people we're not out to get everybody. And we want to work constructively with those parts of the machine that recognise that a system designed in the 19th century is no longer remotely fit for purpose. And a much leaner, much more efficient, much more open central apparatus that is properly accountable to elected politicians. And so when people vote for a change in government, they actually get a change in government, not just a change of ministers.
Right. Look, I knew Charlie Kirk for virtually 10 years, knew him pretty well, campaigned around America with him, spoke at Turning Point conferences. I knew the guy very, very well, and obviously deeply upset by what happened. Some of the reaction to it was vile. Vile. But if you believe in free speech, you have to allow people to say distasteful things. But equally, if you believe in free speech,
you believe there are limits to free speech. An incitement to kill, I would have thought, I know, is way beyond
what even a free speech champion such as myself thinks is acceptable. And yes, these were aimed at me personally. I mean, look, it's not a very pleasant experience, let's put it like that. And so I did challenge the police to do something, but they've decided this does not meet the threshold. Gosh, imagine if I'd made some joke about the trans community. I'd probably be in real trouble. And that is at the heart of two-tier Britain, two-tier policing, two-tier justice, and two-tier care. And it's one of the reasons the flags are going up all over this country. The public have sussed it. The government is not on the side of ordinary, decent, working people. Thank you. We move on to Tony Diver from The Telegraph.
Thank you. Danny, can I ask you, until this morning you were a Tory frontbencher, you were in charge of representing your party in Parliament. When did you tell Kemi Badenoch that you intended to defect, or did you leave her to find out on television this morning? And can I also ask, you previously said that Robert Jenrick was the man who could win voters back from reform. Do you no longer think that he can? And if you don't mind, briefly, just to Nigel, Danny's twice here asked civil servants and military officials to give advice to reform. Are you asking people to break their oaths of confidentiality to the government and leak you information about what's going on inside government and the military? Or perhaps you already have people doing that?
So on the first question, I informed the Chief Whip this morning before coming out here today, and in the proper way. But no, I didn't want to put any of my colleagues in a difficult position of asking them to keep any sort of secret for me before we did this. And so that's that. On the what was the second part of your question? Robert Jenrick. Well, I have a great personal respect and regard for Rob, and obviously supported his leadership campaign last year. I wish that he had won, because I think he would have done things differently. I think he would have taken the fight to Labour immediately rather than Kemi's strategy, which is a respectable one, by the way. It's understandable why she chose to do it, which was to, as it were, disappear from public view for a year or two while the Conservative Party sorted out what it thought. But that hasn't worked. And so I think Rob's strategy would have been to be much more energetic and deliberate, and making some clear policy positions at the outset about the ECHR, which I think is, in a sense, the totemic one that shows seriousness about the changes we need. There would have been a major battle in the Conservative Party to do that, and it might have been that he wouldn't have been able to do so. This is my problem about the divided party. So in answer to your question, do I think that Rob could succeed? I don't think he could succeed in overtaking reform now. Who knows what would have happened if he'd won last year? But I think now it is too late. And so I wish all my former colleagues well on a personal level. But as I say, I think the Conservative Party is unable to deliver for Conservatives.
Since I made that announcement at conference on the 5th and 6th of September to say we're going to be setting this department up, I've had a lot of people contact me, mostly those from the military or the civil service that have quite recently left, and one or two in very senior positions, who've no desire to go public but genuinely want to help because they see what the problems are. We're not encouraging people to break their oaths or break the law or be whistleblowers, but my impression is there are many working within the system who are frankly in despair. So if people come forward with valuable information that helps us to craft a policy, we will certainly accept it.
Yeah, and let me emphasise, we're seriously not encouraging people to break oaths or to, as it were, sort of betray the government they work for. On the contrary, they should do their job as well as they can. but we do want advice on how to fix the system itself. So it's not about policy, and certainly not about any kind of official secrets about what the government's doing, what ministers are doing. It's about what is your advice to us on how we should structure Whitehall, and how we should arrange the apparatus of government in the most effective way. And that's something that only people who have either working currently or have worked in it can do.
Exactly. And that's our weakness, and you're coming here to help us fill that. Max Kendick from the Times.
Thank you. Nigel Farage, this is the first sitting MP defection since the election. You had five MPs just after the election. You're back on 5 now. How many MPs will you have by the end of the Parliament?
What a good question.
And Danny Kruger, you were a big supporter of Boris Johnson. Are you still a big ally of Boris? Should he make a return, and should he come to reform?
I've no idea what by-elections will come up over the course of this Parliament. Undoubtedly, there's only been one so far, which is quite surprising, which is Runcorn, of course. So, I mean, we will look forward to future parliamentary by-elections. We will do our absolute best to win them. Whether we'll be up against Mr. Burnham in one of them, I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what the future brings. And I think there will be more colleagues who have sat with Danny that join us. I'll be in conversation with some of them, yes. But as I say, we've got a couple of bars here that have to be cleared. Number one, we have to see that they genuinely, in policy terms, are with us. And secondly, that they're coming not for a meal ticket, but to add to our movement, to add to our party and what we are trying to do.
Yes, I mean, I hope others will join, and I hope everyone will stay. Lee Anderson just said to me when he saw that it was me, he said, "So which one of us is leaving? So it's one in, one out." So I hope that trend has stopped, Lee. With this, we need to grow. So on Boris, I mean, I genuinely have great personal regard and respect for what he achieved as the cheerleader for Brexit in 2016, and as I think the only man who actually had the courage and the style and the conviction to kick the door down, as he did in 2019, to get the deal and get Parliament to back an election and then to go on to win such an astounding victory in 2019. So I will always